Take it away.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the stream. I'm Stephen Bauman, and this evening in Norway, I'm going to be blocking in a portrait as best I can while taking all of your questions, comments, topics, and chopping it up. And also, I want to mention that the best comment, and I'm not going to say that it's by any specific criteria, but the top comment, the best comment, the comment that pops the most is going to get a free block-in course straight off the bat. So get in your best, juiciest, most interesting question ASAP, and Stephen and I will start going through them. This is I'm here with Stephen Clark from Proko, so we got a co-pilot on the stream.
There's so many Stevens.
To blocking in.
Okay, so what we're gonna the one thing I do want to mention in here is that right now, if you like anything that you see Stephen doing, and you're not the lucky participant of this early in the stream free course, you can get a course for real cheap right now. Because everything on Proko is 20% off right now. That's brushes, photo reference packs, and more. But we'll talk about that more later.
All right.
So what are you doing here, Stephen?
I'm just let me let you in on the process here. I'm drawing a little bit looser because within the constraints of a live stream, we're gonna have like 2 hours, 2 hours and 10. There's like, you have to kind of prioritize what you're going to do, and there's no real time for kind of like messing around and making things seem nice. You just got to like really dive in and go straight for the gusto. So that's what I'm doing now. It won't resemble, probably on the surface, a lot of the tried and true block-in techniques you might have heard of, but rest assured that baked into this really is all the same stuff that you would do in a visual block-in, and a hybrid block-in, or in a structural block-in. All of those are kind of part of it. It's just taking it as a kind of shorthand because you have to. I mean, Stephen, you've been on a bunch of streams with me before, so you know, like 2 hours sort of flies by.
Absolutely.
But so that's what I'm doing. That's what I'm getting up to. Is I'm trying to give you guys my best shot in the short time that I have.
I like it. So we do have a couple questions. Do you want those this early?
I want the hottest, juiciest, dopest, best questions that you can get me ASAP.
All right. Jack Myers asks, what is the most significant or most prominent structural difference between constructing a male portrait or a female one? Is there one thing that can really help create the difference?
Yes. It depends upon, there's several views actually that I would say are kind of more or less important, right? So if you're, a lot of the differences you're going to see are about the kind of what feature you're looking at from where. So right now, actually, it's interesting you mentioned this because on the Head Study app, which is an app that I made to display kind of 3D models and lighting, right now I have in development a series of 3D models of female head, partly because this was always a part of the plan, but also like everybody that bought the app has been asking me for that. So I did a lot of research into what's called female morphology. And Richer, R-I-C-H-E-R, wrote a book specifically about this called Female Morphology. And he talks about, in that book, differences in the inclination and structure of the forehead, the width of the jaw, the sort of prominence or lack of what's called the superciliary arch or the brow ridge. So there's several, the more shallow glabella, that area just in between the eyes. It's kind of several things that differentiate male and female like skull structure, basically. I mean, after that, you can talk about, you know, fat and things, but more or less, I think you're going to look at the skull structure for the primary differences between male and female.
Okay, I like this. Good answer. I mean, like you have bad answers. I feel. You know, I always feel so guilty.
It remains to be seen.
You guys will see. If at any point in time Stephen gives a bad answer, say it in the chat. He wants to know.
Point it out.
Yeah. All right. So then the other one that we've got here, I don't think that they've said more about who they mean in this one, but they wanted to know, what is Stephen's skincare routine? I'm just going to go ahead and cut to a split screen of the two of our faces.
It's got to be yours because mine.
I don't think it's mine.
Non-existent. What is my skincare? I don't. That's not.
That's listen.
You're not winning a course with that question. I don't know what to tell you. I don't have one.
For me, it's washed with cold water. That's all I got.
Go. I do shower. I mean, does that count as skincare?
It does count. I guess no. You know what, Stephen?
What's
I
that?
think that you're selling yourself short. You live in a very cold and intense environment, and you're not
Yeah.
just covered in dry skin and
Oh, I am.
scaliness. So
Yeah.
you're doing something right.
No, I am. No, but I am covered. Now, we're not going to get into this.
Oh no.
But I am totally. Yeah, yeah. No, it's terrible up here in Norway. Like it's the frozen north, man. It's no joke.
Okay. Yeah. No. Let's see. OM asks, how to achieve a good balance between measure proportions and placement and drawing freely.
Yeah. Well, there's there is a nexus between the relationship between sort of not measuring quite as much and not expecting too much accuracy early on. And I think that students should probably prioritize that. I mean, I don't see. Let's put it this way. The first part in Loomis's book where he talks about, what to expect when you're drawing portraits, and he says, like, if your job commercially is to like make sure that everything's perfect, you should just like either trace it or project it. I mean, that's his kind of prescription. I think if you're going to learn to sketch and draw, then you should deal with poor early returns because you're going to be measuring a lot less rather than trying to make perfect early returns and measuring a ton. Like, I just don't see that ultimately that investment reminds me too much of learning the core drawing skills you're going to need to be really better at drawing. Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, I agree. I think it's that striking that balance, finding the way that'll work.
But you gotta find a way to like make it rewarding too. I mean, drawing is kind of hard, and it's difficult also because, again, like especially at the start, which is probably like the hardest part of your trajectory of education. Like, there's just no return on it. You just do drawing after drawing, and they just seem like not good.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I remember plenty of times where I did drawing after drawing and they seemed not good.
Yeah. And that was like yesterday.
Actually, that frankly was yesterday. Like, in all seriousness, yeah.
It's a stupid joke. It's the dumbest jokes. It's like the best man at the wedding, like, I remember John when he was in diapers, and that was, last week. So stupid.
Yeah, it's like, and then 4 p.m. hit today, and he took that diaper off.
There you go.
So Fig in the chat asks, how do you prepare mentally for blocking in as you look at your reference?
It's funny, like I used to, like, I'm a big prepare. Like, I like to prepare. If I can prepare for something and make it better, like, I'm a really happy guy because that means I'm kind of controlling the outcome. Now, like early on, that would usually mean like kind of making studies or kind of trying to look for what, was a good shadow shape, light shape dynamic in the portrait I was going to draw. Nowadays, it kind of just is like, I mean, this is not like satisfying. I don't know if you can do this, if this applies to your education anyway, but nowadays I just kind of look for a good feeling. I like a portrait that has a good sentiment to it. And that's kind of what I look for, mostly because I feel like the things that I have to do will just require me to invest mentally and emotionally. And I think you either will or won't. Like, that's an emotional commitment. It's not like an intellectual commitment. I don't draw portraits because I think that in my mind, for some reason, there's like a good reason. There's no reason to draw portraits. There's no like reason on planet Earth that I should be out planting crops or like, digging a well or something. But I'm like drawing portraits. There's not really an intellectual reason that I find that's satisfying to commit myself to drawing. So I'm usually just looking for some emotional angle. Like, what is it? What do I see in the image that kind of makes me feel something?
Okay. I like this idea. Yeah. For what it's worth, for mine, what do I do to mentally prepare for something? I don't do portraiture, so I don't have an answer for this. But one thing that I do whenever I sit down to draw is I start off with an easy win. Just something to build up the confidence, because the rest of it, like, there's going to be so much self-doubt. And if you sit down and you just try to like jump right into making your magnum opus, you're going to mess up. Don't do that.
Yeah. Self-doubt is like as much a part of the landscape as like paper and pencils. Like that comes with the kit. You see those like on Instagram, like those joke memes about Halloween where it's like your artist costume, and like what it comes with or whatever. Like,
yeah, like the starter pack thing.
Yeah. Like self-doubt comes with the costume. Like it's very much a part of the package. So if you're out there like feeling self-doubt, like, believe me, you're anything except alone. The only thing you're not in that is alone. Everybody's doing the exact same dance.
Absolutely. And every single artist that you like Steven was just saying,
Yeah.
that was yesterday drawing a bad thing. That's every single one of them. And the more that you learn, the more that you know that you're doing wrong whenever you're making something.
Yeah.
Usual guy in the chat asked, what would be a good thing to learn after? Blocking, Loomis, Riley, Asaro, head and basic head anatomy.
Wait, what?
I don't know what the after is in this one.
Learn after this stream?
Let's go with that. We're not going to wait for a lagged thing. Let's do that.
What should you learn after this stream? I think that, listen, when you're looking for progress as a young artist, I think the thing that you look for is a repeatable action that requires as little effort as possible. And that's why block-ins are such a great strategy. Like just practicing block-ins, filling a sketchbook with block-ins is great because they don't take much time and it allows you to kind of repeat and iterate, which is like the cornerstone of how you learn anything. If you're going to learn perspective, you're going to learn head structure, you're going to learn anatomy. It's all repetition, and hopefully obviously that will contribute to a feeling of kind of internalization where eventually that knowledge becomes just second nature to you. Like that's the target. That's where we're trying to get to.
Mm-hmm.
What am I trying to get into drawing? That's a fair question. Oh my God.
I'm going to ask a question for the people who are trying to ask the heady questions right now, but may not know everything else that's going on here. Why is your pencil so long, Steven?
Oh man. Why is my pencil so? Years ago it started and it'll never stop. That's why. There's no reason.
It just keeps growing.
By the time I'm 80, it'll just be all lead. It'll just be one tiny. I'll just start using those 2mm lead refills. That's like fire.
I mean, I could see someone like Dorian really committing to this idea, like Dorian Eaton.
Oh yeah, right.
Because man's got like 4 inches of lead sometimes. And then just to also get ahead of the other things that might come up, what are the pencils you're using here? What's your paper?
Oh, I like a bit of Tombow. I usually use my Tombows. I don't know why, but I kind of gravitated to like this harder lead pencil. I should be using something much softer, but I usually use Tombow pencils up until you get to like a 6B, and then I think I haven't found like Tombows above 6B. Weirdly, I don't know if that's like a me thing or like it's a Norway thing or what, but I've had trouble finding that, and so above that I'll use like Mitsubishi pencils.
Okay, those are your supplies questions, guys.
Oh, and the paper I'm using is not. I usually use Stonehenge. I'm trying to turn off my heater, by the way. There we go. I'm overheating in here. Yeah, I usually use Stonehenge paper. This isn't Stonehenge. It's probably the only time that like I'm not using that because generally like it's my go-to paper for just about everything.
Was the choice motivated by knowing that you'd have to do something really quickly?
No, it's because I don't have this exact tone of Stonehenge paper. I only have white sort of with me right now, so it's so I just don't have it. I don't have the one that I need.
Why would a person be looking to have a certain tone of paper, Stephen Bauman?
Because it's cool, like the reason you do
this seems pretty warm to me,
in
if I'm
art
being
and in
honest.
life is because it's cool.
This seems warm.
I think it's interesting. And like it doesn't. By the way, it doesn't have to be more complicated than that. I mean,
you think it just
what?
Like that's motivation enough?
Of course, it's motivation enough. It's like we do everything for that reason. Like
is that why you choose to use Stonehenge paper?
I like. Well, all right. So there's reasons. You know what I mean? But it's not that you need to do everything for like. Ask whatever great musician. Like, is everything you do? Is every choice you take? Why did you choose that? You thought it was cool. Like,
yeah.
It's not. Like that's okay. Like that's enough of a reason to do something. You don't need to like justify your existence by saying like everything that I do has a concrete reason and therefore it's all rational and it doesn't mean anything. I think we do tons of things like without them having meaning, without having sort of rational purpose. Like I was at a jazz concert last night in this is the most European thing ever. I was at a jazz concert in Oslo last night. And it was this Ethiopian jazz artist called Mulatu Astatke. And he's really, really amazing, incredible artist. He's like in his like 70s now. But the whole concert, these jazz musicians are just like, they're building this like space and like texture of sound, and it's all like very deeply meaningful, but it doesn't, like, you can't say that it doesn't have like a literary meaning that you can like point to and say, oh, it means this. He chose that instrument because it meant da da da. No, it's like it's this other thing. And I think we need to like respect that about art making, is that not everything is going to have like a rational meaning, but you can like listen to that too. Like you need to like give that voice some credit,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no. There was a time there's a time in art school when this lesson was shoved directly into my face. So I had this sculpting teacher. Yeah, it was a sculpting teacher. We had to make some other pieces and stuff around the course, and we had to do like a figure drawing for this course. And I took the reference that we had and I made it into like, it was like Jesus holding Wolverine. Okay. Because I was very bored, Stephen. I'm like 2.5 years deep into school, and you're just trying to find anything to make something fun. Yeah. And the teacher asked me if there was any particular reason why I had done this subject matter. And I was like, I don't know, man. And that was the answer that he'd been looking for, because everyone else who had some like nonsense faff in their piece, they were like, oh, it's a commentary on existentialism within the modern man. And I was just like, it was fun.
Yeah. Good use of the word faff, by the way.
Oh, thank you. All right, to get back to the questions in here, Tom Hrabchik asked, what are the most important...
I apologize in advance for Steven.
Most names I'm good with. It's just putting the R next to the H and then also having the butchk right there. That was a lot.
That's too much.
Tom Hrabchik. What are the most important features in order to capture someone's likeness? Are there any shapes or forms of those features that are essential to representing that feature correctly?
I want to pause here for a second and say we need to get on to the giveaway question. Like, I feel like we need to like somebody plumb the depths of your psyche and come up with a question provocative enough to win a block-in course, please.
Okay.
I mean, like, I'm perfectly happy with all the technical questions. Nothing wrong with that. But I don't know if like a technical question is going to raise our pulse.
If you want, there's one here that's coming up that I think is actually a pretty interesting one.
Yeah.
For commentary. Okay. I think, Tom, I'm sorry about the name. I think we're moving on. So this one is from...
But to his answer, yes, there's a series of those things for every feature. Every feature has key point indicators that like makes it look the way that it does. And if just a side note, I actually made a whole series about this on my Patreon page called Features in Focus. So it's exactly that. It's like, what's all the stuff that makes the eye look like the eye that you need to know to draw the eye? Just I feel like it's such like, it's one of the few things where it's like a really like a cheat sheet. It's like, there's a few things, them, you'll do better.
Okay. Yeah. So there's a link here on screen for you guys, for anyone who just want to find out more about Steven's Patreon. It's going to be the same name as what is on his socials. This over here is Steven Bauman Artwork.
All my socials.
So the one that we have here was from M. Collins. So you recently had a pretty big, like a art experience, I think.
M. Collins, is this Mike?
Possibly.
Mike Collins? It's got to be.
They asked, how has your recent exploration of style influenced how you approach your work?
It's influenced everything. Well, I would say, you know what it is? It's like more than
what was life. Actually,
what's that?
I want to put forward just to make sure people have the context. What was your recent exploration of style?
What was
and then how has that influenced for someone who might not know?
So, well, actually, it's interesting on kind of several levels. So, I'm doing a course in Rome this summer, but it's also like going to be represented on my Patreon page. Called Heavy Metal Portrait Drawing. And I'm not, listen, I have a video on YouTube about it. Go find it. I'm not going to do the whole thing here. But I just kind of like reached this point where I was like, I wanted more punch in my drawings. Like I looked at my drawings and there were these sort of French 19th century looking sort of like even values, and and I was like, no, I want more guts, more blood and thunder. And so I started looking at this artist Vasily Grebennikov, this Russian artist who is from the 1960s in Repin Academy. He's just really like incredible, kind of amazing artist. And I decided like I was going to start to do some studies of his work to kind of basically unlock or figure out what his style consisted of, right? So style is, in a way, is like a series of rules. And the best way that I came to thinking about it was that like publications like the New York Times or whatever have a style guide. It just makes sure that their paper has continuity, that everything that goes into it looks like it's the New York Times. And in a way, your drawing styles also have rules to them. Now, those rules can be rigid or can be also flexible, but nonetheless, you're going to find a set of rules somewhere eventually at the bottom of a style of artwork. So I did a deep dive on Grebennikov, and I'm filming lessons about it. And so why did that become like a thing for me in that moment? Well, I guess there's a lot of reasons. I probably some of the reasons could be interesting to you guys, and some are probably completely not. But after I just wrote a book last year, and after doing that, I realized that I think I'd kind of maxed out like the things that were not just solely art making that I really wanted to do.
Okay.
And
that's not what I've heard, but I've heard about you taking on other projects recently. But okay.
Yeah, well, there's another app in the works, but I can't help myself. But the point is, I want my primary thrust to be artistic, and so like getting into projects and teaching situations that are also like an evolution of my own kind of personal artistic journey. Because like I'm 44, and allow me to tell everybody here who's probably like in their 20s, like your journey doesn't end at 25. Like you're still going to be, hopefully, I hope for you that you're still searching out meaning and purpose in your work well into your 50s and 60s.
Stephen, your art camera has frozen.
What?
Yeah.
That's nonsense.
I'm going to switch over to just these face cams in the meantime while you sort that out.
All right, I'm turning that camera off and turning it back on.
Classic. Would you like another question in the meantime?
Yeah, come on.
Okay. So, also, I want to say, the other guy, Tom Hrabchak, said I did a great job with his name. Now back to the questions.
All right, this is going to be a full-on reboot of my streaming software.
Okay.
And we're going to jump back into that in a second.
So Giropa99 asks, to you, does the art in the portrait activity reside in the choice of the overall shapes or the subconscious modifications of the subject?
Say that one again, because it's a cool question. Actually, listen, that is a good question.
Okay, all right. So Giropa99, to you, does the art in the portrait activity reside in the choice of the overall shapes or the subconscious modification of the subject?
Wow, you definitely got a both and type of situation there. I think you have to say that like both of those things are a really big part of like where the art comes out, right? Because it's an interesting question because you're talking, this person's winning a course. This is a course. We're having a
Giropa99.
Yeah, that's a really astute question. I'm on board with it. But the answer really is a both and. Like I feel that like art is this kind of, in a way, this like reciprocal relationship. Like something about this image kind of called to me, and so I wanted to draw it. And so I'm seeing, kind of feeling things in it that seem like they're like a thing to me, and I'm using my drawing to kind of draw out, and I'm using that in dual terminology here, to like kind of pull out or extract that meaning or that feeling, that vibe that I got when I first sort of saw this source image. I think you look at the entire process, the entire relationship that you have to the image and to the making of that image for what like the message and the artistic sort of outcome eventually is.
Okay.
So that's a
Congratulations to
fantastic
Europa.
question. That is a block-in course, people. That's how you win a block-in course. That's how you do it.
Two things here. How should they be trying to obtain this course? Like, do you want to offer this to them in a way where they will get it from you, or do you want it to be on Proko?
Oh, let's do it on Proko.
Okay.
Let's do it on Black Friday.
All right.
Let's
Perfect.
do it on Proko.
Garopa99, if you have a Proko account already, reach out to the email address support@proko.com. We will be able to set you up with that real quickly. If you do have that account, you can also just like say what your name is on Proko in here, and I'll get that sorted out for you. Steven, another thing for you. There's a UI element on your streaming software right now.
Son of a gun.
Yeah, I didn't want to tell you because you were on a roll, but
we're doing fine. We're doing great. This is the disaster stream.
Yeah, so Girl99, I hope to hear from you in the chat again. I hope you're still here. Usual Guy asked, will this live stay on the channel? Yes, absolutely it will.
Hey, real quick, thing to know, now that we've got the Proko lesson sorted, Patreon has finally answered the cries and pleas of creators and made it possible to gift a free month of Patreon content to anybody.
Wonderful.
So I thought, now that we got the Proko gift out of the way, why don't we do a Patreon giveaway? And so whoever comes up with the most salacious question in the next hour and a half is getting a free month of my Patreon content, which will include the first chapter of Heavy Metal Portrait Drawing.
Wonderful. I'm very curious to see. I'm not going to define salacious for anybody here because I'm very curious how they will choose to use that word. It's used in so many different contexts.
Yeah.
Hit it, guys.
Just have fun with it, people. We're here to have a little bit of fun.
All right. We do have some other questions. Would you like to still get those questions?
Let's have them.
All right. So first here we have one. If people were looking to buy your course, where could they get that? And is it on sale right now?
The all my courses, every course on Proko is on sale right now for what, like 20% off.
Yup.
If you go to, I bet there's going to be a link somewhere in the description of this video or in the comment section. You can go and get that discount on any of my courses.
Yeah. Yeah. Everything is on sale for 20% off right now. That's brushes, tools, anything that you guys want. Just come get it, learn how to make some art, and then also make that art. Because your knowledge means nothing if you're not using it.
Booyah.
Don't just sit there and watch YouTube videos.
By the way,
doesn't do a damn thing.
This head is actually from a model pack that I released on Proko.
Really?
Yeah, which in fact right now Proko is the only place where it's available because you guys don't have like a cap on your like download, on your product download like amount, like on Patreon, or sorry, not on Patreon, but on my personal website. Like there's a cap of like 4 gigs, but you guys let me do like a 20 gigabyte product.
Yeah, if you have something that's like even bigger than that, we'll take it.
Yeah, it's like 2,000 photos or something.
Nice, hell yeah.
Of like you guys can find really good artistic lighting. I mean, that was the kind of thing that we wanted to do. I wanted to do with this pack was like I thought, you know, there's a lot of like portrait packs out there, and I'm not gonna like disparage anybody really, but I feel like a lot of them were taken by like non-painters, like non-artists. Okay. For the lighting is like they got 10 different lights coming from like 10 different angles, and it's like it's not really super ideal for a portraiture student. So I just wanted to make some model packs that were crystal clear for people who wanted to like just figure out what portraiture was about.
Steven, I want to offer you a free month of Stephen Bauman's Patreon for that salacious comment that you made there about model reference packs.
Well, I'm not wrong, am I? Like I know I'm right about it. Like it's something I feel pretty confident about saying that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's a bunch of them where it looks like a person who's just in like a comedy movie where everything is flat lighting. And I mean, sure, the pose is interesting, but we need to see some shadows on forms.
Need some shadow and light, people. Primary dominant light source. And that doesn't have to be like super simple. Like this one I'm drawing is like a primary dominant light source. It has a secondary source coming in from behind it. And like there's a lot of atmosphere and stuff, but it's pretty cut and dry. Actually.
Now, did you, on a technical level, I'm curious, Stephen, were you involved in the taking of these photos?
Yeah.
And so was this with the cameras that you use normally, your Lumix cameras?
No, this was different camera, different lens. It's all about lens, people. If you want to know about photography, it's all about lens and light. So no, there's a photographer who's he's a portrait artist that I know out of New York, and we worked together to kind of get the right models, get the right lighting concepts, and eventually get the right lighting dynamic.
Okay. Yeah, because like as a big old camera guy, there's a certain look to this. It's kind of got like that little Fuji kind of color and roll off.
Yeah, no, it's yeah, he knows quite a bit better what he's doing than I do, which is why it turns out as good as it does.
So for some more questions here, we've got one from Natural Fitness ME. Did you practice noses for a period of time, then mouths, eyes, etc.? Do you practice specific features, or do you just keep working on portraits in general?
Yeah, everybody's got a different temperament. I'm more of like whole head kind of guy. Like it's I feel like every time I draw a head, I draw a nose. So I'm getting my nose practice from drawing heads. I admire people that are able to like sort of categorize and just practice, in an itemized way. Like this is the one thing that I'm going to do, and I'm drawing that until I'm kind of proficient at it. To me, I always had to mix in the thrill of also kind of drawing a portrait.
I get that one. Yeah, because honestly, it's kind of like that idea where they talk about having you can learn something, but if you don't go and actually put that thing into practice, like do a project with the thing, it means nothing. If you draw just a nose, there's so much contextual information missing. There's other like dependencies that come in there, skin folds, everything else. Just get the whole thing in there.
Yeah. But I'll just, Stephen, and not to, listen, this is good radio because I'm going to disagree with you. If you are of the disposition that you feel you can just draw a nose, hey, that's not bad either.
Okay. Do you think that you would like draw a nose from imagination, like fully formed from your mind, or do you think from reference?
I would, or if somebody would.
Somebody
could do that. I mean, it depends upon how much you know about noses. If you don't know anything about noses, that's going to be really hard.
Okay.
But like memory drawing, I think is a fascinating. Like I did a couple of block-in boot camp months on memory drawing specifically, like as an activity, and I think it's really great. I mean, in some ways, really everything's memory drawing, right? Because I'm looking at my paper right now. Every now and again, I look over to my iPad and I see my model there. But really, it's not like I'm probably spending more time here than I am over there. Mm-hmm. So in a lot of ways, and quite literally, this is a memory drawing that I'm doing. So if you're exercising your visual memory, which is a muscle that you can make stronger, it will benefit. Even certainly the drawings that you do when you are looking at something will be better because your memory, your capacity to memorize, will itself be stronger.
All right. I'm going to give it to you. Sure. You convinced me. I agree. No.
I just set you up as a straw man. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry about that.
Oh no, this is fine. Yeah, this is what I have to do. Honestly, one of the worst things that I have to do as part of doing live streams is like do the thing where I ask a question as though I have no idea what the possibility of the concept of the answer is.
Yeah.
And I got to do it, and it hurts me. It kills me.
Steven, you're doing great. You're doing such a good job.
Aw, you.
I believe in you, buddy.
So we have a lot of questions. I think a bunch of these are still backed up from the time when people were trying to get that free course.
Can we get salacious? Filter for salaciousness.
Okay. I'm going to do it. I'm going to try to do this. I don't know the mind of a Stephen Bauman so deeply as to think that I will know all of them, but I'm going to try.
All right.
Okay.
We can, by the way, just like we'll introduce. Let's deal with salacious first. I think salacious is important, but then I feel like it should be a very popular feature. Is the unsolicited critique. This is something that happens all the time whenever you live stream on YouTube, like, just in general, somebody would go like, man, that nose is too long. And you're like, thanks, bud. You know, I'm doing 10 things at once here, but thanks for telling me. Thanks for the feedback. Appreciate it. But then I thought, oh, well, you know, if this is already like a native thing that's happening, that like people want to give that feedback, let's make it a feature instead of a bug.
Yeah, no. One of my favorite ones that's come up during these live streams is we were doing a thing with Liran Jankowski, and he was doing a watercolor painting, and someone dropped in, and they said, "Is this AI?" And it's clearly a watercolor painting.
Yeah.
And you know, it's like, I mean, it's traditional. He works predominantly traditional. I gave them a very straightforward, taking it at face value kind of response, and they said, "Oh, I just mean because it looks like shit."
Wow. Thanks, everybody.
And I was like, damn, guys. Wow.
Like, that's like YouTube. That's full on YouTube right there. Like, you don't get that on other platforms, you know?
Yeah, I know. I mean, I don't know. We've never streamed on Kick or Rumble or anything. They might go a little harder.
Yeah, stream on like 4chan. You get like roasted.
So there's a question here. This isn't this is not a salacious one, but I am curious to ask this question of you.
Yeah.
Know the Status Quo asked, do you find that your present emotional state impacts the emotion the portrait gives off?
Totally, man. Totally. It's it's completely, you know, you know what, as you get a bit more, because I feel like people have an artist age and they have an age, you know, like I'm 44, but I've been kind of drawing and painting seriously for probably since 2004, so what, like 20 years. So my artist age is probably like 20. Yes. You shouldn't actually see smoke coming out of my ears to get that answer. But my point was, I think as you get a little bit older as an artist, you're slightly more in control of that. So nowadays, like, I think about more like, what do I want to express? Like, what emotional state do I want to express? I was just watching something with David Lynch the other day, and he was talking about this, saying like, you don't need to suffer to express suffering. You don't need to, you know what I mean, sort of starve or, you know, or even be elated to express elation. Like there's a difference in between feeling something and expressing something. And I do think that young artists really should be disabused of this idea that it's not, that like somehow suffering is a part of expressing suffering. In fact, like suffering is just suffering.
I need you to keep vamping, Steven. I'm looking, just talk about things you're doing over here. I'm looking for salacious stuff.
All right. In the comments. You're not like Googling.
I'm just looking up election news. We'll get there.
Oh, Steven. Right. So I've got a fair, I think like a decent block in of Jun Yi. That's the name of the model, by the way. Just not that anybody has a reason to know. But I feel like this is where, you know, I kind of should land maybe, what are we, like 30 minutes, 45 minutes into the stream, where you have like a decent sense of structure, the features, symmetry, obviously. There's a bit of light shape, shadow shape dynamic, but I kind of want to keep the lights of her face as, the shadows of her face as light as I can keep them. And then focus on kind of rendering out the structure and the features and the hair. I'm not sure, you know, compositionally speaking, like what I would do with this head. I make a lot of studies that are this size, just for reference. Like I make a lot of studies this size so I can get an idea of like what I'm working with, like what kind of forms I'm working with, what kind of structure, what kind of movement is cool, you know, and just trying to get a sense of like what the portrait eventually should be. Now, that means that as I'm doing it, I'm kind of looking for cool stuff, or like whatever I think is cool. Like I think there's kind of a look in this eye in particular with that highlight that is, that I think is like really beautiful, and it's really evocative, and I feel like that's a thing that I kind of want to bring out. So as I'm just doing all the formal things, you know, like just making sure the head works. Does this head function in a 3D space? I'm also trying to look at, you know, where's the meat in this portrait? Like, where's the thing that I want to like grab onto and really make the feature of the work. If I can get that, I feel like everything else has something to be, what's the word I'm looking for? Like to be, I feel like good art, is kind of done in service of an idea, like there's like, I have all this technique, but if it's like my drawing is just this big sort of, I don't know how to say this without getting blue language into it, but whatever, like if it was just some big, expression of like, how cool is my technique? I don't feel the human touch in that. I don't feel how cool that is. I don't feel how relatable that becomes. So I'm usually just trying to let that stuff be in the back seat, and while I'm naturally kind of drawing things, I'm looking for the feeling. I'm looking for where the feeling in that portrait is, and how I can kind of get to the marrow of that.
I appreciate your vamp. I have no idea of anything that you've said during that time.
It was all interesting.
Just so you know. I just want to make sure it's out there. You say like I was saying earlier, I don't.
Yeah.
I don't. There's not a lot of salacious stuff here.
All right, like people. We don't need salacious. Just give us something to work with here.
We got one more confrontational kind of thing that was in here, and then people just kind of talked about that back and forth for a little bit.
Okay.
So,
come on.
So Lily was asking, is it just me, or is saying that realistic art is not art because it is only copying due to its impact and historical background? It kind of.
Go on.
Oh, they said so many words, Stephen. Is realistic art actually art based on the idea of copying? And if so, why or why not? And is photorealism okay and a worthwhile pursuit?
All right. Well, why don't I just come in hot and say no?
Oh.
I don't
say it again. Say it again, Stephen.
No. All right. Let me give you the premise for why I would put it that way. Because inevitably, like right now, I'm the big elitist, I'm a jerk, and I don't like, everybody has a right to do whatever they want. But I feel like you're in a situation wherein you're attempting to best do something that a machine does automatically. You've already lost. Or at the very least, maybe you should consider photography. I think photography is really fascinating. Like for me, I fail to find the meaning, like the human meaning. Don't put my social network tag up with me making a statement about how bad. Don't ask.
I was really hoping you'd rephrase it in there.
No, but what I'm saying is, like, I fail to find like what the purpose, really, the satisfying human purpose behind doing that is, because it is an extraordinary effort to put into something. What does it bear out? Like, what is the fruit of all that effort? And like, I think it's generally like something that kind of looks cool, kind of looks like a photograph. But I don't value that very highly. I mean, I value photographs highly. I think a photograph's kind of cool.
Do you think that there's something in it that's like, it would be interesting enough as an exercise, as a pursuit, a thing that you hone, but not as a thing that you do daily as the end result?
I don't know. If you like photorealism, like, nobody's here to say like it's invalid. It's obviously out there. It's very popular. People really like it and really respond to it. And I'm not one of them. Like, but I don't have to be one of them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's not like incumbent upon me to like every art form that's out there. Like, I just like the things that I find meaningful, and everybody else can do exactly the same as that. But if you want to know like why I don't like it, that's exactly why. Because I don't see the human connection in it. I don't see the artist present in it, and I don't see what the big deal is with gridding out a painting and then like making it look a lot like a photo.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on this one. I think that the one thing that I definitely really like that you said is the idea that not everyone has to like the same thing in this, even if it's like a masterful technical pursuit. I can appreciate the idea of the thing and the hard work that goes into it and the technical mastery. It's just not a thing that motivates me in any way. And that's better. That means that it will be scarce. The thing that you like has more meaning by the idea of not everyone liking it. It's not Funko Pops that are on a shelf somewhere that everyone can get a hold of in everyday life, you know? It's special, it's unique, it's different.
There you go. And I think that's a perfect encapsulation. Like, it's, again, the stress on not everybody has to like everything that everybody does. That's okay. That's perfectly fine. Like, that's what taste is. Like, what if everybody liked every kind of music, you know? And oh my goodness, the response that I hate. I love music. And, you meet somebody at a party and you go, oh, what kind of music do you like? You know what they say? Oh, everything.
I like everything.
Oh, everything. Yeah. Oh, well, I guess we don't need to talk then. I guess there's no conversation to be had.
I put you up full screen again.
When you talk about taste, you want to talk about things that you like and you dislike, and something that you're passionate about. Like, where is your? I feel like it's such a dispassionate response to say, "Oh, everything." What that means really is that you're not really considering any of it all that deeply. Now, if you say, "I love everything," I am passionate about every form of music, that's still a different answer than, "Oh, everything."
Okay. I would say, personally, I would take those to mean the same thing. I think that they are functionally saying different. They're saying different words.
People out, Stephen. I'm trying to give them an out.
I think the idea of what are the things that's like highly present in art, in all things, pretty much every single aspect of art, is the idea that one thing gains meaning by comparison to the other. Everything is contrast in some way, shape, or form to me. And so if a person with their whole chest likes every single form of music deeply and intensely, then there's nothing that they dislike. It's the same as if they felt nothing about all forms of music, if they feel everything about every form of music. To me.
Get it, Stephen.
The other thing I did want to say, you said that not everyone has to like everything.
Yeah. One
thing that I think is super interesting with art is that you can like something that isn't the thing that you make.
Yeah.
I often see people just trying to like the artists that make the kind of work that they see themselves making in the future, and that sucks.
Get out
like
there,
something else.
And dislike, I mean, it's okay to dislike things. We all do it.
I think the next, I guess, most salacious of the questions that I saw while combing through them was Joshua G. Davila asking, is it strange to have a preference of drawing one gender of people over and over and over again?
I don't think so. Why would it be?
I was curious if you were going to say more there. Yeah, Josh.
No, I'm just wondering why it would be. No, I don't see any problem. I mean, why? Yeah, just draw what you want to draw.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I do think people like get in their own heads a little bit about it. It does point to like an interesting dynamic where people get in their own heads about, like what it is they do and like sharing it on social media and what are people going to think of them. It's like you need to next level that stuff, because like that's not getting you where you want to go. I mean, if you're worrying about what other people are going to say about it, like you're automatically what you're doing is you're kind of deflecting from the things that you actually like. And I'm not saying it's easy, but I'm saying you need to get there. Like you need to get to that place where you're the one in the studio making decisions about what you care about and what you like and what's in your artwork. The minute that you start to go like, oh, what if other people don't like that I'm like drawing a woman again? Like, I don't know, man, or woman. Like, just you got to draw what you're called to draw. Like that's the baseline of the whole operation.
Yeah, I think this goes back to the idea of what you said. Like sometimes it's just cool. Like,
by the way, it doesn't have to be complicated. Sometimes it's just cool. Sometimes you're like, hey, maybe you're a guy and you think girls are attractive. Maybe a girl you think guys are attractive. You want to draw guys? Draw guys. Like what?
Yeah.
What could possibly stop you from doing that?
Well, there is one thing I think that does come up for what it's worth.
All right.
A person just thinking, I'm bad at drawing women, or I'm bad at drawing men. And so they never tackle that hurdle. And so they keep just, That's the only thing that I think could be a positive or a negative to that. Because chances are, if you can draw one in a way that is actually technically strong or technically sound, you can draw the other as well. You have a mental block up.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know, Stephen. I don't know how long it's been since we talked, but I went through a
It's been a
whole
long
anxiety
time.
thing. Went through a whole anxiety thing in the winter this last year, and I did. I went through therapy, and I did. I also so when you have anxiety, like it's all kind of fear of hypotheticals.
Hmm.
Like you're all like in your own head, kind of worrying about hypothetical future outcomes or past things that happened. None of it's kind of present moment. So one of the things I did was I visited my sister in Florida, and I went zip lining. Did I tell you about this?
No, no, that's
No,
definitely a good way to
because
bring
like
yourself into
zip
the present.
lining is like it's like a study in anxiety, because it's a situation that naturally kind of engineers that you will encounter an anxiety, except it's a very controlled environment. Obviously, there's people with a professionally vested interest in the outcome being positive for you.
Absolutely.
Um, and so I thought that's a great idea. Like I can really encounter real physical, because anxiety is a physical thing. As much as we think it's kind of mental, a very significant proportion of it is like physical symptoms that your body is
Hmm.
kind of sending signals about. Um, but anyway, one of the things that became like really crystal clear to me, and as I say this, if this is really obvious to you, that's great. But it wasn't obvious to me. Um, was that all of the anxiety was before the event?
Yeah.
Like once I was like all the anxiety was on the way up the platform to get to the zip line, and then by the time I was ziplining, I was not worried about anything. I was just worried about the thing that was in front of me. And so, just speaking to an issue, if you're feeling like, oh, when you draw, I feel this way, or it doesn't work out. Like that's all stuff that's just in your head before you do it.
Hmm.
Get over the stuff in your head before you do it, and just do it, because that's the only way anything's going to happen. But you
Yeah.
have to get over that hump, because there is like a real psychological hump there that you're like, oh, I'm gonna do what's happening too is you're like talking your negative self-talking and saying, I'm gonna draw this and it's gonna be, oh, it's gonna be bad because it was bad last time.
Hmm.
But I mean, then you're kind of self-fulfilling that outcome, or at least contributing to it.
Yeah. There's a phrase that I've lived my life by since I heard it, and it was this idea that if you start worrying about something before it happens and it doesn't happen, you put yourself through it regardless of whether it happened or not.
Yeah,
Uh,
wow, that's great. Yeah.
yeah, like then if you go through it and then it does happen, you basically put yourself through it twice.
Yeah.
Like just try not to do that to yourself. Um,
There you go.
there's one thing in here from Pie Bite.
Whoa.
Uh, what?
I just like
What
almost
did you
ripped my
do?
paper. I just almost ripped my paper.
Yeah,
It's a
Pie Bite. You let
disaster.
me know because this directly talks about your paper.
Yeah, go on.
See how you feel about this now.
Yeah.
Pie Bite says this chat needs some positive vibes too. Here I go. I love the perforation of Steven's paper. Makes it look like you could feed it into a movie projector.
So wait, is the chat suffering from negative vibes? That's really
I
worrying.
they got into the idea of like realistic art and whether it's a worthwhile pursuit and everything. They were going through it. There's a reason we didn't
There's a
get
lot of
more
emotions out
salacious.
there.
Yeah,
A lot of emotions
and
out there. I think, by the way, I think it absolutely has to be worth it. Like when you consider what are the things that you can do in your life, right? Like I've literally never worked in an office. And I'm not saying anybody out there who's working in an office is necessarily having a bad time, but like I think there's a good chance of it. Like I think that there's a thing about like being an artist and being a representational artist where you get to like connect to these things that you think matter. Like that's so incredible that you could make a career out of doing that. Like I literally just draw stuff that I think matters to me, and that connects me with other people. It's incredible. Like it's an incredible life to spend. I'm 44. I like every day, like I count my blessings that I managed to figure out how to make a life doing this. So yeah, like come on, it's rewarding, people. You know that. Everybody knows that.
I'm gonna ask you a question that I think is gonna necessitate you going off to go grab something.
All right.
OM asked, can you showcase some heavy metal drawings so we have an idea of what it is? The name itself makes you ask, what does he mean? While he's gone, I just want to remind you guys, if you go over to Proko right now, at maybe this link over here at proko.com/Stephen Bauman, you can get Stephen's courses or that photo reference pack that he was talking about for 20% off. It's the most that we discount anything any time of the year. Please, it runs for the whole rest of the month. We want you to save money. Get in here and do it. There are afterpay options where you can pay for something in a couple of chunks if it's not something that you can do right now, depending on your region. You don't have to buy something either because we also have a whole mess of free courses and lessons over at proko.com/free. If you get anywhere on the website, you can see these links. Just come on over, get something for free, or pay for it if you can. Stephen?
There's no way to get this on camera. This is a bad.
Oh my God! Wait, I'm gonna give you a solo.
No, go full,
just
full
yours.
Facecam.
Yeah.
So all right, listen, people. Let's be real, okay? Heavy metal is a provocative way. What's going on? Oh, right. Heavy metal is just a provocative way for me to help people understand what I'm talking about. I'm talking about expressive, bombastic drawings that seem to have a very strong visual impact. When you compare it to, say, drawings made in a more French academic tradition that are a lot more calm and like placid and like all the values are nice and even and there's only a little bit of contrast, think about it like symphonic music versus heavy metal music. And so heavy metal drawings aren't necessarily like a factually bound drawing type. But what I'm referring to specifically is the drawings of Vasily Grebennikov as a jumping off point for what I would refer to as a heavy metal drawing style. And this is just a drawing that I made recently that I would say, fairly well fits into that category.
Okay.
So I think that's what we're talking about when we say heavy metal drawing. Contrast that against, let's take, for example, am I on Facecam? Are we here? All right. Let's just take, for example, something that I would say is of the more kind of calm and placid type of drawing that I was referring to. This is great radio right here.
I like it.
Looking through a book. All right. So this is like one of the demos from my book, right? And it's like, in a lot of ways, it's a great study of like flat value shapes and how to visually organize a drawing with a limited amount of information. But when you consider that in relationship to, say, what we call heavy metal, one clearly has a bigger, tougher, more bombastic, profound impact on you visually. And so I'm using that term to kind of encapsulate the group of ideas that I think will bring that feeling and that charge into our work.
Okay. Yeah, yesterday Stan was talking about it. I guess you guys had talked, and
guys, hold on. Hold the stream. Stop the stream. Stan called me. It's been ages. I've been trying to get Stan to call. I missed my friend Stan that I used to talk with all the time, and he finally called me. I felt very special. Thank you, Stan.
It has definitely been a while. What would you say? How long has it been since Stan called you?
Oh, I don't know. I hadn't talked to him in probably 6 months or so.
Oh goodness.
I miss him. I miss Stan.
I'm glad you guys got to speak though.
It's nice.
I mean,
it's just that every other stream that I'm on, I'm complaining that Stan never calls me. So I got to give like credit where too.
Yeah. No. He after you guys talked, he came back and he was like, I don't know what he means about the heavy metal drawing thing.
Yeah, watch the YouTube video, Stan. And then he texted me back later. He's like, "Oh, I watched the YouTube video. I get it."
Yeah, every once in a while, there's something it just won't land with Stan. He's a focused man. He's put his brain elsewhere sometimes.
Yeah.
There was another question here.
Come on.
This was. Oh man, I don't think I actually have this question here for the name. But someone was asking, do you ever have the problem of drawing something and kind of injecting your own features into this? Like you yourself, not like a feature that you prefer.
Yeah. I don't think so. Maybe when I used to do more self-portraits, maybe I would
that would definitely be a problem.
No, but you know what I mean? Like, no, obviously when I did the self-portraits that they would have no, but what I mean to say is like when I was drawing my own face so often, I would have like, you know what I mean? I would be all like wrapped up in those features and maybe, but no, I don't think so. Like, but maybe I wouldn't be the best judge of that, you know, maybe somebody else would be a better judge to tell me.
Okay. So there's another one here. This is Fripp. Says, why can't all great artists be virtuous individuals? The practice is a gift that keeps on giving patience, perspective, humility, and yet an amazing artist can be a terrible person despite that journey.
Yeah. Well, not everybody goes on the same journey. I think that's the problem. You know, so I remember when I was working at the Academy, at the Florence Academy, this is back in like 5-6 years ago. But actually, I started working there in 2007. This was actually a lot of years ago. I would have heard this. But the point I want to make is that the director, Dan Graves, used to talk about how there was like at least two different kinds of teachers that he wanted to describe. One was the teacher who was like a prodigy, right? They came in and they immediately kind of got it. And so for them, they could very quickly assess what was wrong with a student's drawing, could rapidly tell them, you know, exactly where to go to fix it. But at times they had a difficulty understanding like how somebody maybe couldn't immediately just do that. Then you have another type of teacher who actually was a student who had frankly struggled a lot, who had a really difficult time at the beginning of their education, but eventually like kind of got a hold of it and figured out how to do the thing that they were kind of aiming to do. That teacher is going to be very sensitive to process and understanding like how students need to kind of break things down into smaller bites in order to kind of get a sense of what the whole process is. Now, neither of these teachers is wrong exactly. Each one is kind of valuable in a very different way. And so like, it's not so much that they're at odds with each other as much as they are just different archetypes. And I think that you probably find that a lot with artists as well. I think artists who have worked really hard to get to where they are and to understand the things they understand, I have the feeling will tend to be like rather generous about their knowledge and depending on how much time they have, generous with their time as well when it comes to working with students. I mean, that's not a rule, but I just think it's maybe a trend that I would say I could notice.
Okay. Bidahal al-Lubaini asked, is art enough to be financially independent in this day and age?
Hey, look at me, bro. You know,
would you say that your income is art by itself?
Well, that's fair. I would say that my primary income certainly is as a teacher, but I do also feel like that's how to put this. If you're working in the industry, I'm going to give it to you.
Okay.
Just because like, I feel like it is difficult to eke out a living in the arts. So like if you're out sort of making sandwiches, I would say that job's not in the arts.
Despite them being called sandwich artists at Subway.
And I was a sandwich artist in college. So I feel like, yeah, if you figure out how to make an income, support your life and your family, by either teaching, by, I don't know, whatever gig you wind up with in the art world, I'm saying great, go for it. I think you've kind of done that thing. Now, is like making art on its own? I think it can be for sure. Mm-hmm. But I don't know too many artists that like don't do like another thing too. Like even look at somebody, that we would all ostensibly say, oh, he's like really, really successful. He's a really great painter. And just kind of, you know what I mean? Like he's in magazines like every month. It's like Casey Bowe. Well, yeah, but he's like also doing every other side hustle as well. Like he teaches workshops and he he has like a website where, you know, I guess he sells some kind of like courses and things. So it's like, it's very rare that people like artists, like literally all they do all day is just pick up a paintbrush and that's it.
Mm. Now, you said a thing earlier that was, if you're working in the industry, that you're going to say that they're doing this as an artist.
Yeah.
The main thing that I do that is attached to the art industry is editing videos, doing things like this, hosting a live stream. Am I a working artist?
That's a good question. Does it feel? I would say that the lack of committing a pencil to paper. Well, but I mean, when you're developing, I think, you know, I'll say this. I work with different editors and they contribute a lot to the value to be found, like the learning content value in my teaching. My editors really enhance the message that I send. So in as much as I think that's like also in a way like a wing of teaching, then yes, I would say that you are.
Okay. I have a bunch more questions here. Do you want to just like chug through these guys?
Let's like rapid fire.
Okay. All right. Volontera asked, why do some teachers say to never blend with your fingers? As an aside, you're doing it a whole bunch. Why do you do it while some people say not to?
People that say never. Anybody that says never, just woof. Art teachers who say never are underestimating your intelligence.
Okay.
Why would you say never to somebody? You would say it because you're trying to warn them off without giving them very specific advice about like what or why that thing is. Or alternatively, you think it's so dangerous and damning that like nobody in the world should ever do it, which some blending with your fingers is none of those things. If there was anything else like on planet Earth that blended in exactly the way that the tip of my finger does, I would use it. But there isn't, so I use it. They'll tell you not to do that because they'll say that, oh, at some point in the future, it's possible that the oils from your hand will affect the color of the paper and it will deteriorate because of pH levels and et cetera, et cetera. And they're not wrong. They're not wrong about that. But I think that I think a couple of things. One, I would leave it to the art restorers. Let them worry about my paper. Like I'm worried about trying to make the drawing look as awesome as I can make it look. If our job, you know, there's a guy, great guy, George O'Hanlon, runs a company called Natural Pigments, and he does all around the world these workshops that are they're called best painting practices, where he tells people like all the stuff basically you shouldn't do to your oil paintings. And George happens to be like a really, really nice guy. His wife Tatiana is really cool as well. And when my wife and I lived in Jersey City, they would come to the school we taught at and like give this workshop, you know, usually like once a year. So we go out for drinks and chatting and whatever. So we get to talk to him a lot about like his philosophy about this whole course that he taught. And basically he was saying like, I understand that artists are going to like do art, but I want them to make informed decisions instead of making totally random ones. So it's not your job to be an art conservative. It's your job to like, it's your job to like touch people's hearts with your amazing sensitive effort. That's what your job is. So I don't care if you use your finger or, you know, whatever you got to use to kind of get to that place where your picture does the thing it's supposed to do. I could care less. But what they're trying to tell you, the reason they're telling you not to do that is because it could have a deleterious effect, archivally speaking, on the paper over time.
Yeah. Plus,
but I don't care.
To your point about it, though, I think that both of us have at some point in time or another been a person who's read an article, watched a video or something like that, where someone's talking about this cool little artifact thing that they found in an older painting or an older drawing that means something. So do the thing where you rub something down with your finger and then someone's going to look at your piece in however much time and just like paw over it and then lose their mind about the idea of, oh, it doesn't even look like they smudged here. But you can clearly tell with the wear that they definitely did. It's fine. Just do the thing. Make the thing.
Do the thing. Make the thing. That's great advice. Carve that into marble. Do the thing. Make the thing.
I just there was this great Batman. I'm not even a big Batman fan by any stretch of the imagination, but there's this new artist edition that just came out that's all focusing on one particular artist's work, and they did this really good job of photographing the work, scanning the thing, and presenting it. And I spent so much time looking through this massive book that's printed at the size of what those actual artboards were, just seeing where they had applied whiteout, and then that stayed more true white over time, where the paper wasn't acid free, and so you can see where they did like a paste up and stuff. It all tells a story. It's fine.
Tell the story. Tell the story, people.
Tell the story. Make the thing.
Story.
This is a more technical art question.
All right.
Long GIF asks, Stephen, how does one handle low contrast areas in which the forms of the face work from halftone to halftone? Am I supposed to simplify or put in more information of the form?
You know what? You can make a drawing going either way. That's the problem with that. You can simplify and unify and make it so that you have a kind of beautiful, soft, kind of pristine surface to look at in terms of like the overall light effect and the light shape. Or you can literally like fill that halftone up with like, that light shape up with gritty halftone. Like, they just happen to be next to me because I've been doing a lot of sketching lately. But like this one, I can guarantee you that the entire light shape of this really is quite unified. But for me, I was much more interested in the kind of gritty structure of her face than I was in just a unified light shape. I wanted more shapes. I wanted more information. I wanted more texture. And so that's what I went for. I guess you ultimately just have to ask yourself, what is the thing that you want to show in this? Is it the gritty structural form of the face, or is it the beautiful glowing light of the face? Because those things will be at odds with each other.
There was a question here from Grimsy Reaper. Have you ever gotten attached to a portrait or piece? If yes, how did it happen? Have you gotten over it, and how did you get over it?
Yeah, there was a piece that I sold to, this is like back when I was living in Sweden, and I was like, man, I was really, really so broke. I won this award in the ARC contest. And it was this painting that I'd made of a colleague of mine's daughter. She had this really great face. I was like, oh, she's perfect for a portrait. I want to do a portrait of her. So I did this kind of like conceptual painting, and I won this award at the ARC. And then I think it was also like it won like 2 or 3 awards that year, and like one of them was kind of like a purchase award. And or alternatively, they just wanted to purchase it. I don't know why, anyway, whatever. But so they wanted to buy, so they bought the painting. And at that time, it was so kind of early career. They got it for a song, like it was. I mean, there's no. It should have been more. Anyway, I've thought over the years so many times about just like offering to buy it back, just saying like, listen, I want this because it's like it's a painting that like kind of really meant something to me. So yeah, like there has been that. Like generally speaking, no. Like it's kind of like I almost want them to go out into the world. Like you don't want your kids to like come back home and live in your basement. You just want to like, go out there. Find a life. But yeah, so rarely does that happen. But it does happen.
As a little aside, I think maybe possibly related to this, if people go over to your socials right now, you've been talking about having a studio sale going on.
There is a studio sale. That is right.
Yeah.
SBAcollection.com is the website.
I'm going to put that up here.
There's a few pieces left. Some pieces from the book itself, actually. Like a lot of I did all new illustrations for the book when I did it, and I did them all in like this 6-month period, which is like an insane. I don't know why I did it in that time frame, but I did. In any event, those are available. Some of those are still available in the studio sale.
Yeah. I just don't want to rob people of the chance to get a piece for a song off of you,
So
there's actually one the people are asking that I think maybe we should have defined a little bit earlier in.
Go on.
Bugrilius asked, what is block-in?
What is a block-in? A block-in is what you do on a blank sheet of paper. You got to start somewhere, and so understanding like what the visual thrust of your picture is going to be, and then understanding, of course, how to start that picture in the most useful way. Now, I'm choosing those words very carefully because there are a lot of different ways that you can block something in. If speed is a factor, then mass drawing is going to be a great way to kind of block something in. If you really want to get into like dynamic forms and really like show all of the halftones, maybe structural drawing is a really great way to kind of start blocking in. Much in the way that like Loomis recommends, like why does he start with a circle, right? Like he says you can start with any form, you know, to draw a portrait. You can start with a cube, right? Why wouldn't you do that? Well, he just reasoned that the sphere was just a little bit closer than any other form to the nature of or character of a portrait. Mm-hmm. So he chose to start there, and that's really the idea of like why I feature different styles of block-in in the block-in course. It's just so that you get to know there are multiple paths to arrive here, and you need to be clever and wise about how you combine them and which one you choose to get where you're going. If the idea is that, again, that you need to work effectively, which I really kind of think we all do. I mean, there was a time at which I would have said I don't think that efficiency is like the most important thing in drawing until you consider that your time and your willpower are finite. At that point, you got to consider, where do I want to spend my willpower and time? Do I want to spend it like searching or fumbling around in the beginning of the drawing for my proportions? Or do I want to spend it refining and finishing like this beautiful surface at the end? Well, I think we all know what the answer to that would be.
Yeah. You don't want to spend your time doing all of the, like, just building the structure the whole time. Like, you want to spend your time actually rendering some forms. You want to do the fun stuff.
So be smart about how you block in, learn the different kind of styles of block in that there are, and then just get on with your life.
If you guys are interested in something like that, there's that course of Stevens. It's linked everywhere. It's on sale right now. I don't need to sell you. That's what the whole rest of this thing has been. Yeah. He has a whole course on just the block-in, though. Mr. X asked, not sure if I've already asked or if somebody else already asked, but the models in the background, what are those made of, Stephen Bauman?
Oh, these are plaster. So let's see. Yeah, these are plaster casts of like classical sculptures. When I was a student, and as a teacher, I did so many drawings of these over the years. And they're really beautiful because one of the things they do is they kind of remove they remove color and like local color and value from the surface and allow you to just focus on how light and form work together. There's an artist that I work with in Florence that I have for years called Tor Larsen. But he runs something called Tor's Cast Collection. There's another guy in the States that runs Fountainhead Gypsoteca that I would recommend. Like, if you're going to get plaster casts, they're not all the same quality, believe me.
Yeah.
You can get good ones and bad ones. So Tor's Cast Collection, especially if you're in Europe, or Fountainhead Gypsoteca if you're in the States.
Okay, perfect. If you guys ever have more questions about those things, go over to Steven's page. You'll see them there. Steven's very giving with his time when he answers things on socials. So don't be afraid to ask over there.
All right.
Do you draw people in pub? Oh, go ahead.
No, go. You go ahead.
Do you draw people in public?
Do I draw people in public?
Yeah, take that as you will.
No.
Okay. No. Like, do you end up drawing from a live reference, like a live model?
Oh, I love drawing from live. Really, okay. So I was teaching at this. It's a really cool place for those of you in the Northeast, called the New Salem Museum of Art, and I was there teaching a workshop in October, and spent those 2 weeks kind of drawing from life and working with students and stuff. It was really, really great, and like people there, Laura Barletta and Michael Klein and Noah Clavins. Just wonderful people to work with, and Alida, who also kind of runs the place. Really, really wonderful to work with. And I'll actually be teaching there again in 2026. That's going to be that'll be a whole thing to talk about. Not now.
Is this something that this will be a far journey and you'll be spending a real substantial amount of time there?
I'll be spending about a month. Yeah, it'll be like a month-long intensive. Though we're also going to make kind of a customizable version of it in the sense that not everybody can take a month and study figure drawing, just because life. So we're going to make it so that you can spend, 1, 2, 3, or 4 weeks, whichever you're able to spend, while I'm there kind of doing, this is kind of a pre-announcement, and it's in the planning phases, but it's likely we're going to do this. But I'll be there for a month. Yeah. That's the idea anyway.
I think that would be an interesting one to see you document, not necessarily vloggy, but in some more substantial way.
Yes. I totally agree with you.
You were going to say something. I think you were going to ask a question. You were saying how we were doing in something.
How are we doing with? All right, people. I want to give you a month of paper. Help me help you. Give me something provocative, something that gets the people going.
All right. There's one here that there are two. We'll start with the softer one that might lead into the next one. Alicia Rodriguez asks, at what point do you take a criticism to heart?
Ooh, holy cow. That's it. That's the one. You hit me straight away like that. All right. So I talked earlier about the unsolicited YouTube, critiques. It's fine. You should eventually work to be secure in yourself enough that unsolicited critiques on YouTube are not going to break your heart. That's okay. They in an insecure moment they suck, but in reality, it's somebody else's kind of problem and not yours. But I think that what I look to in terms of taking criticism is kind of like, can I turn this into fuel? And usually there's different components about that. Like, is the critique coming from somebody whose opinion I value? If it's from somebody who's totally random, I don't know them, or I do know them and I think I don't value your artistic opinion, then no, I think you absolutely don't need to take to heart that evaluation. I'm not saying just look for people that are nice to you and only listen to them when they're nice. People can say that, that people can have critical, negative things to say about your work. But I think what you're looking for in a criticism is you're looking for fuel. You're looking for something to propel you to the next stage or phase of your understanding. And if you feel like that criticism can do that because it's from somebody whose opinion you value and whose work you merit, then take it. Take that criticism to heart and keep it with you. Now, listen, every situation is different. I'm not saying that person couldn't be a jerk too, but that's got to be on a situation to situation basis. You've just got to judge for yourself whether or not you can find the utility in what that person's saying.
I agree with every single bit of this. This is not in Alicia's question. This is just kind of follow up from me. Have you ever? You're being presented with a bunch of critiques from some nameless chud on the internet who's just being a dick that day.
Yeah.
Do you find yourself more often having to walk yourself back from immediately dismissing something from one of those online chuds? Or do you think that you have a built-in barometer for when to ignore something actively?
I feel like it's pretty... I don't think anything I'm going to hear from a rando on YouTube, I don't think that's going to set me off. It'll sting because it's never what to hear someone be rude to you. Mm-hmm. But as far as knocking me off my track, no.
Okay.
What? Yeah.
So the one thing that I think obviously as a person instructing someone online, there's always going to be someone out there who's like one focus is this thing. And so they
Yeah.
come in with like saying that you misused or could have used a better term here and there.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh, are there any, like, do you find yourself being like, duh, to those kind of things and then improving yourself in
Well,
some way?
yeah, like when you listen, mea culpa, right? When you mess something up, then you mess something up. Like you got to get on with it. Like I did an alla prima course, and I just misspoke when I was saying what the literal translation was. But it's like it's been to the editor, it's been back from the editor, it's been developed a whole course. Like I can't take it back now. I just
Mm-hmm.
misspoke. And that now like kind of lives. So yeah, like I'll get corrections every now and again on that YouTube video that it doesn't actually mean that. You're like, I'm sorry, like I screwed up, it's my bad.
Yeah, there's no good way to fix that either. I think the best thing you can do is just like make it a joke later on or something.
Yeah,
It's
I just,
fine.
listen, I was just there. I just messed up, I mean, it
Yeah.
just happened. I mean,
Uh,
Italian's not, my Italian isn't great anyway. So, but anyway, that's yeah. So yes, you try to, like, obviously when you sort of misuse some, important property, yeah, like you definitely try to like pick up and learn from that, definitely.
mhm.
But I'd still, what the thing is, I'd still make the mistake. I'd more happily make the mistake than be just so cautious to not do something.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the honestly, frankly,
Like,
one of the hardest things in making something to put out on the internet in general.
yeah, like, by the way, you're gonna get something wrong. I promise. You don't know everything.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of like getting over that part. And I work with a lot of students that are, want to do like personal development, and they want to like, build social media accounts, and they want to do, and like part of it is they'll come back like over and over, and I'll say like, okay, you need to start to post, like get used to posting something every other day. Not because that's going to make your account grow, but because you need to get good at posting, right?
Hmm.
And really, I think almost unsurprisingly, that's the hurdle that most people fall at, is just doing the thing. And like it won't be great. You're not going to be the best at it, but you need to like do it to get good at it. And
Yeah.
and most people, frankly, just don't do that thing. And there's a billion things on earth that I'm not good at all, like Italian. But like I do kind of know how to put myself out there. And you do, I mean, that's a big part of like making your art career, is just putting yourself out there, is literally just doing the thing.
Hmm. Well said. How would you like Alicia Rodriguez to reach out to you?
My DM me on Instagram.
Okay, Alicia, that's your goal. This is the name. That's the account right there. DM Stephen Bauman and say, "Hi, I'm Alicia Rodriguez. I won that thing."
I won that thing.
Yeah.
Say it exactly like that.
Let's see. Joshua G. Davila asked, "What is the worst critique? The people. What's your worst critique of the people around you or yourself?" I think you probably mean this in mostly art, because I mean, it's just like, yeah, no, my dog poops terribly. It's the worst.
What's my worst?
Let's go with yourself. Let's make it the
Yeah,
hard
like
one.
what's the worst critique I can make of myself? No, I don't know. Like I feel like that's a mindset I've lived in for a long time, and I just frankly don't want to do it.
Okay, that's fair.
I mean, like, so John Cleese is really cool and really funny. We all know him from Monty Python.
Hmm.
But he was talking about improv, and comedy and writing really as well, and saying that negativity is like the death of creativity. Like you need to surround yourself with people who say yes and instead of saying but, right? Because that but is a killer. Like if you like, creativity is fragile and it's very easily breakable because you don't have something yet. You're just feeling around in the dark to try to find to grab a hold of something that's very nebulous and difficult to capture. And if the first thought in your mind is like, oh, that's stupid, well, you're done. Because it is stupid. It's like you know what I mean? Like it's the ideas that I have for paintings. If I stopped at my first idea and said, oh, that's stupid, I would never have made a painting.
Yeah.
Because they're all stupid ideas at first. And then you work with them, you mold them, you search out, or not even rather you search out, but you make the meaning in them by investing in them.
Yeah. I think that's the hardest thing also, just being at a time when social media is there. You got to create stuff just in this empty void where you were thinking that you were making something possibly original, or at least it's like a good riff on something that someone else did. But now it's so easy for a person to dismiss it like, this person did that person did that before. So doesn't matter.
Yeah. It's your job to do it again, riff on it, make a different version of it, invest in it. Maybe, you know what? Make a generic first version. When I remember this is like way back when I was like 24, I met Chuck Close. I don't know if anybody knows him. Actually, now that I've slagged off photorealism, he's one of the most famous photorealists in America.
I was so inspired.
No, but I was talking to him at this opening that he had at the Fine Art Museum in Miami, and I asked him, "Oh, what was your work like when you were younger, like when you were in your 20s or whatever?" And he said, "Oh, it's pretty generic. It's just kind of like everybody else's. Like it was just a rip off of whatever artist I liked at the time." And I was like, "Wow, yeah, like that's so." I mean, in my 20s, I was crushed, but like in reality, I'm like, yeah, no, like of course, you're not your most best original self when you're freaking 20. Mm-hmm. You barely know what's going on at 20.
Yeah. No,
anyway.
It's a common pitfall.
Don't overestimate like what you have to be doing like at this time. I mean, you have to be growing and searching and learning and kind of being yourself. And then obviously working, I mean, I think so much merit is found just in doing the work. Whatever you have to do to stay motivated to do that, I think in general is probably pretty good.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned Miami earlier. You were talking about how to kind of conquer the idea of your fear, of your anxieties. Yeah. You went and did ziplining in Florida.
Yeah.
And you said that the people there have a vested interest in your safety.
Yeah.
And I just want to say, I think that was very brave of you, because I can't imagine any possible state in the United States where I've heard more ziplining accidents come from. Like the rate per capita has to be just huge in Florida compared to everywhere else.
You're not wrong exactly, are you?
I'm proud of you, Steven. That's what I'm trying to say here.
Thank you. I survived. That's the important part.
Yeah, so you can too, guys. Go to Miami.
No, that is not an explicit advice. The T's and C's on Proko will not allow me to say that. Yeah.
I think it's okay. I'm going to say that this is a stamp of approval. We don't have anything specifically addressing anything about zip lines in any of our terms and conditions. Nothing in there in the EULA about this. So I think this is gospel truth now.
Okay.
We have a process question here. Mr. X, the plaster question asker, is asking, how does he pick where to focus on? He seems to be going all over the picture. I probably get too focused in parts of the drawing.
Yeah. Well, it's years of just kind of repeating this pattern over the face, just over and over and over again. The answer to that question is not really that. I can't produce something very meaningful in an answer to that question. Mostly because I'm just going around kind of searching for what looks off, and what doesn't kind of relate well to the whole, or what doesn't, create a cool, interesting shape. In a drawing where I had done already like a thumbnail, and I was making a real stab at like an artistic statement, I would say that I would let the thumbnail kind of guide me, so that I was very confident of exactly where I'm supposed to be spending all of my attention, because I've actually kind of planned a lot of that out. Whereas with a sketch like this, you just kind of go with your gut a little bit and kind of mess around. Now, what you're talking about is like, oh, you get like caught in the features or whatever, and you don't kind of get to, the rest of the stuff and make it look, accurate or whatever. But that's just practice, I think. I can't unfortunately produce like a good catch-all sort of answer for why and when to do that, just because it is a little bit random the way that I kind of go around the head. All I'm doing is like looking at what is the thing that looks least like I want it to, and then I usually mess with that for a minute, and then I kind of move on to whatever the next thing that occurs to me is.
I just want to remind people the whole reason that we're here today is for a sale. I'm trying not to shill quite so hard, Stephen, for things. I think we've already gotten.
You're good at this, Steve.
This is my calling in life. But I just want to remind people that if you guys like anything that you're seeing here right now, Stephen Bauman has many courses, many just one photo reference pack with many photos in it, though, that you can buy for 20% off on Proko right now. Everything that's on the website is 20% off. That means photo reference packs. That's going to be courses. That's going to be brushes if you really need those digitally. We don't sell any traditional ones just yet, but maybe if you guys make enough of a stink on the Proko YouTube comments, maybe we'll start selling some physical art supplies.
Proko branded brushes.
I think it could be nice, Not that I think you would beat us to it, Steven. I think you're the one out there doing the new products quicker.
I'll never do physical fulfillment like stuff. I don't. That sounds like a job for somebody else.
This is also why we don't do this. We have sketchbooks, and we only sell them when we're already going to somewhere physically, and we can just throw them in the back of the vehicle.
Yeah.
There's no way. JD Anarchy here asks.
Hey, JD is always on my YouTube channel.
Okay. I wonder if they've already gotten an answer to this question before, or if they're setting you up. Do you have any advice for a former student that would like to start teaching?
Like to start teaching? Wow, that's a really cool question.
You just like them because they're on your channel often.
No. I think it's a really cool question because it addresses like a real need for people. It's like to figure out. I mean, I've worked with various students in the past who have gone on to like start teaching, and not start teaching because they got hired on by some blah 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 whatever. Somebody conferred some some prestige or purpose upon them to start teaching, but because they were really deeply interested in a topic and they thought they could bring something to that. So I think the process is a pretty reasonable one. I would say that if you're going to start teaching, niche down and really try to get like data driven, right? It's fine and good to have like experience and say like, hey, this is how you draw a head. But I think that in the world of online teaching, a lot of times everybody comes to like, I don't want to say everybody. You don't often get drawing teachers that just straight up don't know how to draw. So that's not really the criteria for should you be an online teacher, or should you teach? I think the criteria is, have you done your research in the area, and can you contribute to people, like value to people who are trying to learn more about that subject? I think that's the question. And the information is definitely out there. All you have to do is be a person who understands it well and facilitates other people's understanding of it well. So you can clarify, like James Clear's book, Atomic Habits, is not great because he's the first guy to come up with, ideas about habits. There's literally hundreds of books on like how to maximize your blah, blah, blah through habit building. But he just was really good at making it accessible, and really good at communicating it. So I think that's a value that you can really look to and try to specialize within.
Someone in the chat here is pointing out a thing that I haven't clocked this entire time. Steven, there's a cursor on your screen right above by there.
Unbelievable.
There we go. I wasn't clocking it. It just blended in with the rest of the black.
Oh, guys.
So.
Oh, guys.
Yeah.
Guys,
to the account Totally Worthless Art, who said that. All right. We do have
Screen
many.
names, man. People's screen names get me. I wasn't ready for that one.
There are some names that I really, really, really enjoy.
Yeah.
The thing there's one thing that I've started doing recently where we'll get names where it'll be in like it might as well be in like Sanskrit for
Yeah.
me. The language that it's written in, I don't recognize those characters. I cannot say those names, and so I'll have to take the name over, throw it into something, and ask it, how would I pronounce this,
Yeah.
so that I can say it. Because, man, I don't want to do them the disservice of just not saying a name.
Yeah.
All right, so we've got some others. There was, this is possibly just a fun one. M. Collins asked a follow-up earlier. They said, after the heavy metal New York Times guide journey, what typeface and instrument would you be?
What typeface would I be? Wingdings.
You're the font that's secretly been holding it down, enabling so much, and no one actively chooses to use.
Oh my God. Yeah, that, and then if I was an instrument, I would suppose. I suppose if I was an instrument, I mean, I want to say like flying V guitar, but probably like, I mean, that's me. That's like my own vision of me. I don't know how true it is, you know?
The outside, you're just like some sort of like beat up like
Some old
ukulele.
like sort of ukulele or something.
Just a little plunky guy.
But I think I'm the flying V sort of electric guitar.
Okay. I like both of these for you. I like the choice for the font as well. Steven, you've known Stan Prokopenko for a long time.
I have known him for a long time.
How long would you say you've known Stan Prokopenko?
I've known Stan Prokopenko since 2005, 2006.
All right. Why did you let him use Chiller as the logo font for Proko for so long? You don't do that to your friend.
We didn't know each other like that. We hadn't reached the font level of our friendship by the time he was making that decision.
Okay. All right. I guess I'll absolve you of responsibility in this one then.
Thank you.
Yeah. For those of you guys who don't know, if you go back and look at like an older Proko video, there's this, it's like the trash Halloween font basically that everyone uses for something, for a flyer at work. And that was the Proko logo for all intents and purposes for a good few years.
Yeah.
It was bad, and it kills me every time because it's baked onto all of those videos.
Yeah, that's the thing you do at first. Is you think it's really cool to put graphics in your videos and like transitions and stuff, and you realize if I ever wanted to repurpose this, I'm doomed.
Yep. Yeah, it's a bummer. But what are you gonna do? So there's a question from Bram Bauman earlier who asked, if I'm only halfway through the drawing basics course, will this course be too difficult to start with? I'm assuming you mean the block-in course, probably the one that we've talked about most so far. What would you say, Stephen? A person who's beginner to beginner intermediate level, probably? Do you think this would be too advanced?
I don't know. I mean, it's a fair question. Not knowing exactly what's at the midpoint of the what did she call it?
This drawing basics.
Drawing basics. Not knowing totally what's in that. I mean, I think anytime you jump into portraiture, things are going to get weird. I'll say that you could watch the videos and draw along with them and make bad drawings, but I do think at the same time you'd still be deriving interesting information from doing that. So I don't know, like if you ever would reach a point and go like, I'm totally ready. Everything that is in this, I can already do. Maybe at that point you wouldn't want the block-in course. So I don't know. Like I get the feeling like I'm somebody who I like to be in a little bit over my head. So would it be over your head? I mean, maybe. It's kind of hard to say. I wish I could give you like a concrete advice about that. But I make it, I'll tell you this, I make it as simple as I can. In the block-in course, and I illustrate it as crystal clear as I can with graphics and sort of live drawing demonstrations.
Yeah, the one thing I'll say is I don't think that you actually will technically have anything go over your head, because one of the most important parts of a block-in is making sure that you've placed the head properly on the page.
Steven, that is why we have you on these streams. That is reason 1 to 100 as to why you're here.
Yeah, if you guys are interested in laying out a head nicely on a page, it's 20% off right now over at proko.com/Stephen Bauman. There's a link in the description, on the screen, and here in the chat. Anything you guys want, you can get for 20% off right now on the Proko website. Do it. We want you to save money. We just want artists to get paid for sharing their knowledge too. So come on over. But if you can't for any reason, there is also a totally free option for you that I believe has some of Steven's lessons in there over at proko.com/free.
Yeah.
So you can get some free lessons, a couple free ebooks, some things like that. If you just can't spend any money right now, it's okay. It's Christmas time. I understand.
Yeah, people, we get it. Believe me.
Yeah.
Boy.
Oh no.
What what are we doing time-wise, Steven? Where are we at? Where am I supposed
right now
to be at?
We're at 1:45 so far. Typically, we go for, an hour and a half to 2 hours or so.
Yeah.
How are you feeling? How much gas is in the tank? It's late.
That's
where you
what the
are.
questions are. If there's good questions, man, I'm good to roll.
Yeah, let's see. I got some.
I get my energy from the people,
This communist energy sharing network. I like it.
That's not what I meant. That's completely, yeah.
So Slar asks, what's the best way to fix the graphite on the paper? Do you actually use fixative, Steve?
Yeah, no, I do. I definitely do. There is, all right, so over the years, I've used like several different fixatives, and I promise you there was no remunerative aspect of this for me. I'm not sponsored by them. There's only one that I really trust, and it's SpectraFix, because I know what's in it. It's a kind of milk enzyme based fixative that's the formula is taken from like 19th century pastel drawing fixative, famously that Degas used, and it's just that it's milk enzyme, and it's like obviously pH treated and everything, so it's quite archival. And there's also no aerosol to it. Not that, I mean, like, whatever, like, if there was an aerosol that worked really, really well, I would just bite the bullet and I would use it or whatever. But this happens to not have that. So that's also kind of a bonus, because a lot of times I'm spray fixing stuff like inside my studio, which is indoors. So I don't want to have like a bunch of like crazy stuff flying around in the air. So SpectraFix is a really solid choice to take.
Okay. That's good to know. Yeah, I think it's one of those things that you don't necessarily learn until you have to learn it.
Yeah.
Oftentimes you just go with like the idea of just use hairspray or whatever the DIY version is.
People, don't use hairspray.
There's a bunch of additives in there that aren't great.
Wow. Yeah.
So you do have this comment from Marco Fornaciari.
Yeah.
They said, Steven's courses are great. I did some Patreon stuff with him, and he's an amazing teacher. 100% recommend. Little heart.
Love this guy. Marco, I appreciate it.
Like that you recognize the name off the bat before knowing.
Yeah, Marco Fornaciari, I think I see him I think he's always on Instagram.
But yeah. Just for you guys who might be wondering if Steven's offerings are good. Yeah. You got the stamp of approval. There was also a question. I'm not sure how this person meant it. The name was Include Beer. They asked, will Steven critique some student work from the block-in course?
Hey, listen, right. So we did let's talk about this. So we did a call out for submissions to the block-in course. Unfortunately, we didn't get like a ton of them back. It just wasn't maybe on people's radar at that moment. So we decided just to do like a drawing demo instead. I'm happy to do a stream of group critique for that course. We're just going to try and maybe plan it more in advance so we get more submissions. So if you did submit, I think it was like a couple of people that did. I'm really sorry that we're not doing that actual thing at the moment. I'll shoot you a message on Proko with a little bit of feedback about your drawing.
Yeah. And you do typically people will get feedback as part of a course, depending on the instructor, I think that you're pretty good about this kind of thing. I think that you enjoy the experience of this.
I do like it.
Yeah. Man, I'm trying to see which ones are the best other ones here. Okay. Balsam Art 8 says, what do you do if you overdid the drawing and scratched off the paper? How do you fix it? Throw it away?
Well, I'm a kind of believer that, there is a breadth of possibility in drawing that defies our sort of our initial idea that paper is this sort of soft, pristine thing that needs to be kept safe. Like, I like to beat the crap out of a paper. And so I don't so much see it as like, oh, my paper is failing or whatever because it's a little bit beaten up. I just think that's one other layer that I get to mess around with. So for me, I don't see that really. I think just keep going.
Okay.
Put more of it in. I mean, the thing, like what you're really talking about is like, have you developed it as a texture? And if your drawing is developed in this really pristine way, then any little, sort of bump or crease or wrinkle in the paper will automatically like create this really uncomfortable sort of inorganic surface. But I think if you push through that, I think you can get somewhere. I think you get somewhere really interesting, actually, when you start to push through that idea of like, the paper has to be pristine or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, look at Steven's paper. There's a rip on the side. He left the little edges over there.
What am I doing? What am I doing over here? There's rates of grit all over the place.
There was a question from Fig. It says, how much does texture affect the blocking in? Do you find yourself wanting to stay away from any particular paper?
I stay away from most papers. I got to tell you, like there is, well, I'll say this. I experiment with every paper that I come into contact with, and I always end up going back to Stonehenge. And it's for very specific reasons. Like, it has a set of properties that I think are really, really good at every different value level. This is the thing. So there are some papers where when you put light values on them, they look beautiful, like Fabriano Artistico. It's like, ooh, you put your values on it and everything just floats into place. But as soon as you start getting really, really dark, this sort of really fine golf ball texture of the paper comes out. And I think it's really unattractive. And so, I tried that and I was like, nah, I'm back to Stonehenge. And then, again, God forbid we talk about Strathmore. But like Strathmore is like one of the worst drawing papers I've ever drawn on. It only responds to if you just beat the heck out of it. That's the only way I've been able to get like any kind of purchase on that paper in particular. So really, it's a no Strathmore. Like I said, with Stonehenge, it just performs well in the darks, performs well in the lights. This one actually is a paper that I think is pretty good. Only the company makes it really hard for you to get it in anything except for sketchbook size. It's a Stillman and Byrne BIRN paper that I like, and I talked with them for a while, emailed back and forth, trying to like just get large sheets of this paper type available, and it just eventually it drug out so long that I was like, I have other things to do. I can't be like chasing down this paper for months and months or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, if they don't want to sell it to you, they don't want to sell it to you.
Like, I'm trying, man. I'm just like, let me patronize your paper. I think eventually they finally got like a quote to me, but it was like I had to like ship it from America, and we're saying like it eventually gets really costly for me to invest in this paper I like. Whereas like Stonehenge, they're like, they're like with me all the time. They're like, hey, what do you need? Just tell us what you need. We'll get it to you. And they're really like artist first. I really love that about them.
How much did Big Stonehenge pay you? Because I'm just saying, man.
It's one of those great things. It's like one of the only brands that I work with, and I just do it because I always use their paper, and they got a hold of me. They were like, hey, it's cool that you use our paper. And I was like, yeah.
I was like, I would love to have more of it. Please, thank you.
Yeah, and they were just like they were really upfront about it. They never asked me to do anything. Like they offer opportunities and stuff, and if I make some content for them, they're happy to do it. It's not they like send me a sheet of paper and they're like, you need to make 5 YouTube videos. Like that, I would be like, nah, sorry. Like, I can just buy paper. Like, I'm not rich, but like I can buy paper. You know what I mean? Like, I don't need to like make a YouTube video for some paper.
Wait, let's see here. Steven, how much money would Strathmore have to give you for you to do a Strathmore sponsored stream or video?
Next month, I'm on Strathmore.com. Like I got my teeth whitened. I'm smiling.
It's just you with the pencil right there, like a splash page on their website.
Listen, people, then you can just give up on me at that point. I've given up on me too.
Yeah, I think for different people, there are a couple people in the chat. Here's MJ Ulrich saying, I use Strathmore with a little crying emoji. You might have a different thing that you like out of your paper, and that's okay. Yeah, hey, it's not a problem.
A lot of people use Strathmore. I mean, it's popular for a reason. I just definitely not one of them. Yeah. Big Strathmore. How much would they have to pay?
You're just walking around with this nice big yellow shirt.
I think that people think that that's how it works when you're like a social media person. Like people just show up to your house with boatloads of. It's just no money in it. Like
yeah,
you just if you don't figure out a way to like offer value to your community, it's like nobody's walking into your door with like payment for you being cool.
The one interesting thing is the idea, people, like you said, like they assume that you just get money for doing a thing. Rarely is there a time when, like, some people will reach out just unasked, but usually it's like, oh, you already talked about us. Let's expand that relationship, because they already know. It's like a person going to like ask someone on a date. The idea of just cold calling someone, very unattractive. You're going to get a no so many times. But if someone already said, Tiffany said that you were kind of interested in me, then they'll go out of their way.
Yeah.
But you can't trust Tiffany either, and you can't trust Strathmore. That's the real lesson. So we're at 156 right now.
This is getting ridiculous.
Actually, I have one question. I have an intense one here.
All right, come on.
This is from PieBite. PieBite asks, are proportions not one of the key aspects of a lay-in? And why did you make her face longer?
All right, so full disclosure, that might be true, but you also should understand that this is viewed in perspective. So like if I zoom out here.
That's the opposite.
If I zoom out here, you can see that the paper is like tilted back in depth. So like the actual read on what the width versus height is distorted. So if you mean that you think independent of that, her face is long, maybe I think as I look back and forth, I think I got it pretty decent.
Yeah. I think I looking at it the way that the actual taper of the shape is to judge the perspective, I think you're right. This looks like it would average out to being, at the very least, a very solid approximation of the proportions here.
Yeah, so I think I would call it probably decent. I'm not saying it's perfect. I mean, just talking on a live stream for a couple hours and sketching, but I don't think it's particularly too narrow. I mean, there's definitely like issues about it. I think maybe your mouth is like too wide, maybe in the wrong position, not well defined. But you know what? Listen, I did ask for the internet, the YouTube critiques. I did ask for the smoke. So
yeah, PieBite does a good job. Like I don't know anything about PieBite. PieBite is here for many of our streams, and they'll set me up for the idea of getting to do the shill towards the sail and stuff like that. It's great. Like here in this next one, they said I often get asked if I'm getting paid by Proko because I keep recommending their courses everywhere, and their value, because you can get everything on Proko right now for 20% off during this sale. It runs for the whole rest of the month. There's not that much of the month left, guys. Come buy things from Stephen Bauman and learn for your edification, not just because you can give money to people, but you can learn, and then you can get money for drawing things.
There you go. You listen, there is a true thing. You get good at drawing stuff, it is possible to make money doing it.
Absolutely.
I'm living proof.
Despite what the people on Twitter would have you believe.
Yeah.
It's totally doable. It's not the end of the world for people making art and getting paid for it.
Oh god.
There's still avenues for this, guys. It's okay.
Come on.
Ooh. I thought you were going for an eye catch. I thought you were going for a little specular. in there?
Well, you know what? I'm not sure that I really love the position of the highlight. Why don't we do an important lesson and say, I don't think the position of the highlight's any good. Not because I think it's actually like more like what she looks like, but I don't think it's good for the drawing. So I'm going to move it.
Okay, look at that. That's right, guys. You can idealize. You can change.
You can change things based on it looking better. That's a criteria.
I appreciate this. There are a couple quick ones here. Are you okay with that?
Yeah, come on.
All right. Vadim Artemanov asked, how do you stay away from going too dark yet avoid creating a low contrast picture?
Ooh. How do you do I do that? Maybe I don't. Maybe I'm exactly doing that thing. Well, I think that values, in my opinion, have a lot of space for interpretation. Meaning, like, I don't think that you need to like just look at the darks and go, that's implicitly what they are. That's what they have to be. I follow much more the idea that you should use value where it's useful, like where it's important, where it helps the picture, and then I don't really care what you do with it elsewhere. So, like, I think that this is better lighter, when in fact I know that there's a stronger contrast available to me. But I'm gonna try to make this picture as much as possible with that light, because I like the idea of this like contour for face here. I like the feeling of that, and I want to like be able to kind of hold on to that in the drawing. And I feel like if I darken all this down, then I'm just going to push the eye up into this edge, and I'm going to lose that really cool opportunity that I think I have.
Long GIF in the chat has one more question, might possibly related. Stephen, I'm really struggling with the skin tone of the face. I'm really confident in my black and white drawing, but when color comes into the mix, I lose it all. I'm doing it digitally, if that matters.
Oh, digital color. I don't have any good answers for you, bud. I mean, like, digital color is like, it's the kind of bane of my critiquing existence, because it operates so fundamentally different from how like oil color works. Oil color is like additive. You take one and you smush it into the other, and you smush it into the other one, and eventually you get a feeling for what you need to smush into what other thing in order to get the color value you want. Whereas like digital color picking is just this totally different beast. I mean, like, I can do it myself, but I can't, like, it's difficult to like teach with it, because it's so hard to really specifically apply it to functionally how oil paint works.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that there's a big mode switch, and it's not even just in the idea that traditional color is, it just works differently. Everything that you add together with pigments, it's going down to theoretically a black, like a muddy brown kind of thing, where digitally all the colors that you're adding together end up working up to a white. There's so much different in there. It's a whole thing. I like the way that you said it though. Is like I smash this into that. Or it is
a little bit like, and there's always like kind of a remnant, and then there's like also the other thing too is that you're operating in kind of two phases when you're working traditionally, is that you're working on your palette and you're working on the canvas itself. Like when I mix something up on the palette, I'll mix it intentionally a little bit more chromatic, because I know I'm painting into a wet area that I need to like overtake with more chroma so that I can get the effect that I want combined. I mean, I'm sure that there's some like digital, algorithm where you can reproduce that, but like I don't work so sophisticatedly digitally that I would have anything super useful to say in that respect.
I got you. All right. This looks like Wojciech asked, hello, how late am I? You are late for this stream. We're about to close this thing out. But that's okay, because you're still in time for the sale that runs for the rest of this month on Proko. There's a few more days for you to save 20% on courses, tools, everything you could possibly want on Proko right now. You just use that code BLACK20 on checkout. Don't worry, you don't have to remember it here. It'll remind you in the cart, all on the banner of the website and everything. You just go over there to Proko.com and it'll do the rest of the work for you. All you got to do is choose which thing you want. And I'm going to go ahead and say you probably want Stephen Bauman's course. You should grab it.
Want the blocking course, people.
Yeah, damn right.
It will be
but
good.
If for any reason you don't have a Proko account and you think, I don't want to pay for this over there, that sounds terrible to me, it's okay. You can get it somewhere else. Steven has a Patreon. It's over there at patreon.com.
I got a website.
Yeah, there's so many ways for you to get a hold of Stephen Bauman and his knowledge. I recommend it. Stephen, I want to thank you for having been just like the next one in a stream of Stevens that we've had. This week,
pretty Stephen heavy.
It's a lot. There's been Stephen Zapata, there's been you, Stephen Bauman, myself, Stephen Clark, and then on Monday we're also still joined by Stephen Michael Hampton.
Nice
we're gonna have some more live streams across the
just
YouTube
by sheer numbers, we're gonna dominate.
I think it's true. I think we are one. Every single Stephen feels the pain of every other Stephen. When Stephen Bauman,
it's like a tree network. It's like. It's like the underground mushroom network that connects all sort of, plant life in a forest.
Exactly. We're that mycelial network that's connecting all Stevens. But yeah, thank you so much for being here. It's been awesome to get to talk to you. Man. Is there anything that you want to say about this piece before we actually head out of here?
No, I don't know. I have a little bit of fun making it. It's all right.
Okay.
I think that... yeah, I don't know. I had a fun time drawing. I'll probably do more to this. Like I said, I've been doing a lot of sketches at this size lately, and that's kind of a research for some larger work that I'm doing, which I think is going to be really fun. Hey, you guys want to take like a peek at my actual studio?
Yeah.
All right, let's see if we can do this. Hang on. All right, switch to my my.
You're on the
camera cam. No, I don't want to be on the camera. I want this one.
Ah.
All right, let me take this one off the screen, and we can take a
look at that. Ooh, this is in keeping with the other piece that you had recently.
Yeah,
with the flag on the face.
With it's slightly reductive, whatever.
I think it's important to process the way that other people would perceive your work.
Yeah. What else have we got in my studio?
Look at all this. Look at that nice red mic right there.
That red mic.
Red mic.
It's my book.
That's a good book right there. No, I like this. I do. Actually, this is actually really interesting to me. You don't use a grid on your light overhead there.
Look at this. Oh, that's a YouTube ad. You guys are getting YouTube. I'm sorry. I'm not in control of Proko. No, I don't use a grid on my light. The grid takes too much intensity off of the I want all the smoke.
Usually. So the main thing is like it'll just direct it.
Back to me because I'm done moving this camera around.
I like this idea though. Look at all this. You guys can see the camera brand. Man, so much.
That's the sculpture project. Yeah. So there's another course I'm doing called Anatomy for Portrait Artists. Ooh, you can't even see it. But we're sculpting actually a skull. So I have my skull model there, my little clay model as well.
Wait, actually, I think, Stephen, there was a post that you made on socials that was you. I think you drew a person. Am I misremembering something? Did you do a life drawing session recently?
A life drawing session, like a nude person?
Like I think it was just a.
Oh no, like a from the workshop. I was drawing this bald guy, right?
Yeah. And you had paired some words with it where it was like something about like this is the life or something like that. I don't remember what the thing was.
Yeah.
But there was just this idea that you were going down the person, and it was there's some notion that I took from it that was like, this is life, and then you go down, and as you go down, you go from this man to this drawing to a skull. Like it was like life to death.
Yeah, no, it was like I think it was just like a start and finish IG post. So like I had the beginning of the drawing, the first few really dark marks, and then I had the end of the drawing, which was like the last hatches, and then The camera just happened to move down, and I had done a skull study. Like one of the best things you can do, sort of study wise for portraiture, is to draw the skull in the same light that you're drawing the portrait, which is kind of the whole basis behind the Head Study app. Was I wanted people to be able to see anatomical and structural models in the same light as the models that they were drawing. So that's just something I do usually if I have time in a workshop. I'll do a portrait drawing of the model and then a skull as well in the same pose. Okay.
I like this. That's a good idea. It's an interesting one.
Do it. You'll see. Right. You'll see where all the structure is coming out when you do that.
I like this. If people want to find out more about those things, you can find Steven on socials. He's got a Patreon. You guys should all be there. I've talked about it so much. Thank you guys for being here. Come back on Monday. We'll have more of this. You'll want to be there, and I want you to be there too. Steven,